Hi there, Shooby Doodlers. This is a bit unusual. This is Caroline Silverwood Taylor, who I've known for a very long time, and you're a photographer.
I am.
And we kind of go off places, don't we?
We do.
Not together, but Mrs. Rayner and
Mr.
Taylor, we go off together to interesting places. And while Mrs. Rayner and Mr. Taylor are off reading things, we're looking at pictures and taking pictures, and so we're much with the visual side, aren't we? And
that's true.
And then we get into these little philosophical discussions about liminality and things like that. And in fact, you are currently writing a doctoral thesis.
I am, yes.
About?
Liminality in photography.
Yes. What's that all about?
Well, perhaps I should explain liminality first. Liminality comes from the Latin limen, meaning threshold, which is all about in-betweenness and things not being fixed. But
and fix is a word that comes into traditional photography.
Well, it does,
isn't it?
and I think we tend to think of the photograph as being fixed and delineated, precise, decisive.
Yes.
As in the decisive moment, which perhaps we could talk about a little bit later.
Okay.
But I suppose I'm looking at photography in a slightly different way, in that because we're living in time, actually trying to fix a moment is something which is, I mean, what we traditionally think of the photograph as doing.
Yes.
But it's not really part of our reality, because our reality is a continuum.
Yeah.
And we're living in a temporal state that is always flowing.
Yeah. So do is that reflected in your work as a photographer? Are you trying not to take that moment, but you're trying to take a longer...
Well, I tend to think of moments as being durations rather than as something... I mean, we traditionally, again, think of the photograph as being something instant, fixed, snapshot. All these words that we use about it tend to think of it as being... we talk about the instant, but actually when you start to probe the meaning of these words, they become meaningless. Well, that's my opinion.
Yeah.
And talking about the decisive moment was coined by a very famous French photographer called Henri Cartier-Bresson, who I think influenced photographers in the 20th century greatly. And the decisive moment was, he saw it, I mean, his word was images à la sauvette, which were images that he took on the run. But his images were amazing in that compositionally they always seemed to be perfect. All these elements came together, so not only were they saying something meaningful, but they looked very beautiful and had lots of geometric echoes and abstractions.
And yet taken in a moment. Were they taken in a moment,
well,
or, as you say, on the run?
A fraction of a second, yes. But there are, I mean, a lot of artists have reacted against him in that because he had such a huge influence. There are people like, there's a photographer called Jeff Wall, who has tried to sort of subvert or challenge, question the idea of the decisive moment. And he has done an amazing image called A Sudden Gust of Wind, which is after Hokusai, the Japanese printmaker.
Great wave,
And the original is called A Sudden Gust of Wind, is of a particular moment when some people get caught in a sudden gust of wind and they're holding onto their hats, and there's I think somebody's lost a manuscript, so there are bits of paper in the wind. It's a fantastic image. But Jeff Wall, the photographer, set up another image, set up a photograph, which is actually a composite image. So it's, I think it's about 100 different photographs superimposed. So although it looks like a decisive moment, it's very much a staged
Yes.
image, which actually I think you see he exhibits on a light box, and it's very much
Yeah.
challenging that idea that.
Which is what everybody's doing on Photoshop now.
Yes, it is.
And yet when you go back to the origins of photography, then it was all about capturing light and time, and you would have to spend a lot of time actually exposing the picture.
Yes, you would, yes.
And so it wasn't a snapshot. It would take time to actually create the image.
Yes, and you had things, contraptions to help people stay still, like had head clamps to keep your head from moving.
And whereas now we're obsessed with speed and not just the speed of the shutter, but the speed of getting it to digital and instantly into Photoshop and editing there, and so it's all.
And I think that gap between seeing an image that you want to take, to seeing a photograph and seeing it on your screen or whatever you're looking at it on has become. I mean, that the speed is almost negligible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas I suppose in the 19th century, when photography was beginning, that gap could be days.
Yes, because you've been playing around with pinhole cameras and things like that.
Pinhole cameras. I've been doing some up to sort of 20-minute exposures, and which are quite interesting actually, because it slows the whole process down. And did you get into doing tinplate? Have you tried tinplate? Yes. No, I haven't.
They look really interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. But I think that I was going to feel that the photographs that you, not the ones that you take, I think the ones that you produce, because it isn't just the taking, it's the developing, and you spend a lot of time, and a lot of that is the technique of developing, isn't it?
And the process in the darkroom, which, because I still use film.
Yes.
So it's.
So you're not taking a snap and somebody else is developing it, but you're actually seeing the whole process through and controlling it.
So you have to control throughout that. So you're making decisions all the way along as to how you want that image to look, I suppose.
Yes, and I always feel you have there's a drawn look about your things, like they could very often be drawn with a pencil.
Well, that is all to do with the process,
yes.
I suppose, yes. And it's I think that they do, there is a look about them that does have a pencil quality.
Yes.
Which is to do with the technique of, I mean, I'm not trying to do that, it's just the way they emerge.
And whereas a lot of people, in fact, are taking photographs and trying to draw from them.
Yes.
And a lot of people trying to make their drawings look like photographs.
Yes.
And your technique but there is a kind of a drawn quality about.
Yes. I think it may also be that because I do use. Well, I suppose I'm using black and white film.
Yes,
and I think there is a different, I mean, although sort of digital technology has got to the point where I think it's quite hard to tell sometimes between digital and film photography. Film photography, I think, has got a slightly different quality about it, which perhaps is a bit more.
And hand-drawn artwork has a different quality to digital quality.
Obviously,
yes, in a similar kind of way.
Medium, really.
Yes. And then liminality.
Yes.
So this is, which I think of. I think it was a kind of a twilight world.
Yes. Well, twilight is very much a liminal time.
Yes.
In that it's between. Because it's a threshold between light and dark and night, isn't it?
And eras even.
Yes.
I know we were talking yesterday how this feels like a slightly liminal era, that this is very much, well, in case you're watching in 20 years' time, this is the second year of President Trump's presidency, where the whole world seems to be changing. And we're going over a threshold and we don't know quite where we're going.
Yes. Betwixt and between.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And then how does that fit in with light and shade, do you think, and on the middle photography with the
Well,
liminality?
I think it's quite useful sometimes to think of when we're talking about process and we're talking about making things. I think it's quite useful to talk in terms of verbs rather than nouns.
Right.
That a noun has a fixed quality, like
Yeah.
a door.
Yes.
But if we talk about sort of walking through the space,
Yeah.
walking over the threshold of the doorway, I think it gives that, again, that sense of flow that we're living, that we're on the verge of always becoming something else. And I think that's what the quality of liminality has about it, is we're not fixed, we're always on the verge of being somewhere else, of thinking about something else, of doing something else. And I find it quite useful to think in those terms, particularly when I'm...
And do you feel that the past is fixed?
No. No, because our past, I think, is very much determined by our memories of it.
Yes.
And our memories are always changing. And actually that's really interesting, I think, when we look at old photographs, because when we see a photograph, say, from our childhood, that the reaction that we have to it, say, when we're first adult, is very different from perhaps how we see it when we're sort of later on in life. Yeah.
As you would in a picture book, and you read as a child, you read the story, and as an adult,
you have a different reaction to it, don't you? Absolutely. And I think our memories are very much like that. They're always changing. Yeah. They're not fixed things. Yeah. So in that way, the past isn't fixed either, even though those things all happened. Yeah. It's our reaction to the past that is always changing.
So for the people who are watching this, who many of them go, I don't know what to draw, and I don't know how to draw creatively, and the people quite often say, oh, I can draw from a photograph, or I can draw a thing that's in front of me, but I don't know how to. I don't know how to create something. Do you think there is a way in from this kind of thought process?
I think there is, actually. Because I think that drawing from photographs, it can be quite useful in that you can see proportions, and but possibly they don't give you that sense of yourself creating something from out of nothing. Yeah. But I mean, there are exercises like blindfolding yourself and trying to draw something, or feeling an object blindfold, and then trying to draw it can be a way in.
Or maybe in that twilight light, to go into a semi-darkened room, so you can't quite exactly see the details. Yes. And you can't quite see the paper, maybe, that's the thing, and to see what happens with that.
Something that's sort of indeterminate, and actually leaves room for the imagination.
Yes, and just to flow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what's so interesting about photographs where you can't quite see what's going on. Yeah. Is that there is room for you to imagine what might be going on.
Yes. I know we were looking at photographs yesterday in an exhibition, maybe, and I was saying how I'd noticed that exhibitions, the ones with red dots, are always the ones that sell first. Are the ones where you can place yourself in the photograph and imagine yourself
in there, that you can identify with. Yes.
Which is illustration, I suppose. No, not necessarily, but it's storytelling, though, isn't it?
It is storytelling, or you can make your own narrative out of what's there. Yeah.
So, marvellous. Well, I think we can potter on, go and look at the rest of the gardens and things, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Shoo.
Well, thank you. Bye. We can swing around, and here indeed is Mr. Taylor, who has been listening all along.